Welcome to today's custom-tailored deep dive. We are really thrilled to have you here, especially since our source material today is entirely unconventional.
Oh, unconventional is almost an understatement.
Right. We aren't reviewing a textbook or summarizing some standard historical overview today. Instead, we have this incredible stack of primary documents that reads exactly like a thriller.
Yeah, I mean, we are looking at emergency weather teletypes, waterlogged forensic logs, field audio transcripts, and tactical floor plans.
It's amazing. Our mission today is to reconstruct a terrifying mid-season climax known simply as the Great Flood. We're going to put you right in the middle of a literal and psychological storm.
Exactly. We'll be analyzing exactly how an environmental disaster fundamentally alters a criminal investigation.
Because it changes everything.
It really does. It's an incredibly rich, visceral set of documents to work through. But to properly frame what we're looking at, we really have to ground ourselves in the setting first.
Right, the context is everything here.
So the year is 1964. We are in Kansas City, specifically the West Bottoms.
And as you probably already know, the West Bottoms is this sprawling industrial labyrinth full of massive livestock pens, abandoned grain silos, and this pitch-black network of forgotten Prohibition-era tunnels.
But we also have to remember the political context at the time. The city is caught in this post-Pendergast vacuum.
Right.
Essentially, the old mafia-style political bosses have lost their iron grip. That leaves behind a chaotic power vacuum where the old rules just no longer apply. Modern civil unrest is really beginning to take hold.
It is a city uniquely on edge.
Completely on edge.
And navigating that exact edge is a fascinating trio of protagonists from our 1964 series Bible. Let's unpack this a bit. First, you've got Detective Jack Sullivan. Everyone calls him Sully.
Sully is 54, a chain-smoking relic of the old Kansas City Police Department.
He really is. He came up during that mob run era, so he has a pretty, let's say, flexible moral compass.
Very flexible. But the violence they're investigating right now deeply offends his basic old-school sense of order. I mean, he understands standard criminal motives like greed or revenge.
Yeah. Sure, the usual stuff.
Right. But what they're hunting doesn't fit that mold at all.
Which perfectly contrasts with his partner, Detective Marcus Thorne.
Yes. Marcus is 32, and he's one of the first black homicide detectives on the force. He's college-educated, highly forensic-minded, and intensely socially isolated.
The way he views the world is so fascinating to me.
It's entirely unique. He tracks killers using a concept he calls behavioral probability.
So instead of relying on gut instinct like Sully.
Exactly. Instead of instinct, Marcus treats human behavior as an algorithm. Every wrong turn, every open window is a statistical variable to be calculated. He is constantly doing the math on the worst things human beings can do to one another.
It's such a heavy burden. And then adding a completely different lens to this investigation is Eleanor Vance.
The reporter.
Right. She's a 30-year-old investigative reporter for the Kansas City Star. In these documents, she effectively serves as the public eye.
She was actually the very first person to spot the serial pattern that the police department was actively trying to bury.
Which brings us to the reason they're all here. That pattern belongs to our antagonist, the Butcher of the Bottoms.
Believed to be Dr. Eris Thorne. And we should definitely note for you right now, there is absolutely zero relation to Detective Marcus Thorne, despite the shared last name.
Yeah, that's an important distinction. So who is Dr. Eris Thorne?
He's a disgraced surgeon who basically vanished underground in 1961. And his motive is rooted in this twisted obsession he calls biological architecture.
It is so gruesome.
It really is. He isn't just murdering people. He is actively dismantling and reconstructing them.
Using surgical precision.
Right. Surgical precision and sodium pentothal, which is basically a heavy barbiturate used as a truth serum or anesthetic. He horrifyingly grafts biological material from the livestock in the West Bottoms directly onto his human victims.
God.
And then he stages these victims in public spaces to tell a story. He refers to these macabre displays as his gallery.
It's a deeply, deeply unsettling premise. And our entire focus for this deep dive zeroes in on a single pivotal night, October 24th, 1964. The detective's hunt for the Butcher has finally been forced underground.
But the weather dictates everything here.
Yes.
And the weather has entirely different plans.
Okay, let's look at Document R. This gives us the exact catalyst for the night. It's an emergency teletype from the Weather Bureau, time-stamped 2200 hours. A flash flood warning is issued for the Kansas River, specifically targeting the West Bottoms.
Now, keep in mind, they are relying on 1964 weather forecasting.
Which, let's be honest, was basically just a guy looking out a window with a barometer and a prayer.
Pretty much. So this flash flood catches the city completely off guard. 3 inches of rainfall in just 2 hours. The drainage systems instantly fail.
And what does that mean for the underground?
Well, the lower utility tunnels, which are the exact pathways the butcher uses to move unseen, are officially designated as death zones. The water accumulation is incredibly rapid, and there are exposed electrical hazards everywhere.
Look at how that completely flips the tactical board. I mean, if you're a normal criminal, a flash flood of this magnitude is catastrophic. It ruins your hideout, it destroys your supplies, and it traps you in the dark.
But Document R reveals how the butcher actually weaponizes the environment.
The rising water acts as a massive cleaner for him.
Exactly. The flood is a gigantic tactical advantage. Think about standard police work in 1964. Sully relies on physical evidence, right? Fingerprints, blood spatter, footprints in the dirt.
All the tangible stuff.
Yeah, and the rushing water is systematically obliterating all of that. It dilutes the blood trails and washes away the crime scenes. Simultaneously, it forces Sully and Marcus to navigate an unpredictable, highly deadly environment where their standard operational procedures mean absolutely nothing.
The water is actively protecting the butcher.
It really is.
And we actually get to hear exactly what that sounds like. Document S is so intense. It's a transcribed field recording from Eleanor Vance's handheld tape recorder. She captured it right at access hatch number 7 near Warehouse C.
If you read through this transcript, the sensory details are just incredible.
You can imagine standing there in complete darkness with them. The sound of heavy rain is hammering on the metal access hatch above, and underneath that, you hear the deafening roar of the Kansas River breaching the walls. Eleanor notes the water gauge is already at 4 feet in the lower crawl space.
The tension in that audio log is palpable. You have 3 very different minds trying to process the exact same crisis in real time.
Right. Eleanor logically assumes that if the butcher is down in those tunnels, he's drowning.
But Sully, leaning on his decades of street experience, assumes the butcher is fleeing. He spots these deep, fresh tracks in the mud and concludes the butcher is dragging his gallery toward the viaduct stairs.
Just desperate to escape to the higher residential blocks.
Exactly. It's a textbook flight response.
But Marcus Thorne doesn't see a man running for his life. Marcus points out that those tracks in the mud are incredibly heavy, much deeper than a person simply dragging a body.
It looks like someone dragging a specialized cast iron medical gurney.
And more importantly, over the chaotic sound of the floodwaters, Marcus's audio picks up a distinct mechanical rhythm.
A pump.
Yes, a portable generator running somewhere nearby.
This is a profound psychological pivot for the entire investigation. Marcus's behavioral probability models tell him that a man fleeing for his life drops dead weight.
You don't take your heavy equipment when you're drowning.
All right. The fact that the butcher is hauling a massive medical gurney and running a generator proves he requires constant power. He is not running away. He's desperately trying to save a surgery in progress.
He is protecting what he considers to be his masterpiece.
The flood isn't an obstacle to his escape. It's an active threat to his ongoing work.
And the sheer horror of what that work actually entails is laid out perfectly in Document U. This one is tough to read. It's a forensic analysis letter from a Dr. Abernathy sent via courier to Detective Thorne.
The river patrol was dragging the flooded Kansas River, right?
Yes, and they pulled something massive out of the water near the James Street Bridge. At first, they thought it was just a drowning victim.
But Abernathy's autopsy reveals it wasn't a victim at all.
It was a discarded prototype.
Abernathy describes pulling a human torso from the floodwaters. It had no head and no limbs. But the most disturbing part is that the internal organs had been entirely removed.
Just hollowed out.
Yes, and in their place, the butcher had installed mechanical bellows and thick rubber tubing. It was a biologically engineered, buoyant construction.
The audacity of that is staggering. I mean, we are talking about 1964 here.
The first successful human heart transplant hasn't even happened yet.
Exactly. And this guy's out here replacing human lungs with mechanical bellows. It shows you that the butcher represents the dark, twisted side of 1960s scientific optimism. While the rest of the country is trying to put a man on the moon, he's applying that same obsessive, boundary-pushing engineering to human anatomy.
What's fascinating here is how this reveals his true engineering mindset. He isn't just a deranged, knife-wielding killer hiding in the dark. He is a methodical, brilliant scientist who is treating a catastrophic citywide flood as a laboratory test.
A test run for the real thing.
Exactly. He specifically designed this buoyant torso to test how to keep a biological body functioning while completely submerged in toxic river water. He wasn't surprised by the flood at all.
He has been actively preparing for it.
He knew the water was coming, and he adapted his biological architecture to survive it.
It makes you realize the detectives aren't just hunting a man. They are hunting someone who is actively rewriting the laws of biology to suit the environment.
Which is terrifying.
So Marcus and Sully realize the butcher is moving a live, or at least semi-live, masterpiece to higher ground, and the trail leads them directly to the location detailed in Document V.
The tactical floor plan of the Kansas City Livestock Exchange at 1600 Genesee Street.
Let's talk about this building. If you look at the topography of the West Bottoms, the Livestock Exchange building is the absolute geographical high ground.
It is a massive, imposing brick fortress. It was originally built as a monument to the cattle trade.
In Document V outlines the architectural nightmare Sully and Marcus are forced to navigate to get inside.
The ground floor lobby, which is usually this bustling hub of telegraph offices, is entirely submerged. They are wading through 3 feet of standing, filthy river water,
Swirling with industrial debris and raw sewage.
And because the city's power grid has failed, the main elevators are completely dead. They actually refer to the elevator shafts as a deadlift, just these dark, flooded pits.
Think about the physical toll that takes. You have 2 detectives, soaked to the bone, freezing, wading through toxic water in pitch darkness. They look at the floor plan and realize the only way to reach the butcher is to take the North Fire stairwell.
Tactically, a narrow concrete stairwell is an absolute choke point. It is the worst possible scenario for law enforcement.
You're completely exposed.
You can't see what's above you, but whoever is above you has the ultimate high ground and complete visibility of your approach. As Sully and Marcus make this agonizing claustrophobic climb up the concrete stairs, they're forced to pass through the 4th floor.
Which Document V designates as the administrative level?
The documentation of this 4th floor is incredibly eerie. It describes a labyrinth of dark wood and frosted glass-paneled doors, dozens of small, interconnected, windowless offices.
The police suspect this is where the butcher actually set up his temporary surgical suite before the water got too high. You can almost feel the detectives sweeping those dark, empty offices with their flashlights.
Expecting a grafted monster to burst out from behind every single glass door.
But instead of a monster, they find something that provides a direct window into the butcher's psychology.
Document T.
Yes, Document T. It's a waterlogged scrap of paper left floating near a makeshift surgical table. It's essentially a surgical log.
The ink is smeared from the river water, but the text is legible, and its clinical detachment is genuinely unnerving.
I actually have the transcription of Document T right here. Let me read it for you. The butcher writes, Phase 4 is compromised. The river has reclaimed. I am moving the primary subject to the observation deck at the Livestock Exchange. The temperature drop from the rain is beneficial for the graft, but the humidity complicates the suture. The masterpiece breathes, even if only through the bellows.
Just analyze the arrogance in that log. He is literally grading his own surgical environmental conditions while the police are actively hunting him in the exact same building.
Right.
The city is drowning, people are dying in the floodwaters, and his primary concern is that the ambient humidity is making his stitches slightly more difficult to tie.
But the log doesn't end there. He leaves a direct, personalized message for the detectives. He writes, Sullivan and Thorne are like the water unthinking, rising, inevitable, but they lack the grace of the storm. I will meet them on the stairs.
That single sentence fundamentally changed the psychological dynamic of the entire investigation.
It really does.
Up until this exact moment, the butcher has been the hunted. He's been hiding in the shadows, leaving his twisted gallery pieces for the police to find long after he's gone. But by explicitly stating, I will meet them on the stairs, he entirely flips the script.
He is no longer hiding?
No. He's positioned himself as the host. He is formally inviting Sullivan and Thorne into his parlor. He feels completely, undeniably in control of the situation.
I will meet them on the stairs. It's such a chilling declaration. Sully and Marcus know he's waiting, and as they push past the 4th floor, moving higher and higher into this dark, looming building, the environment itself begins to warp.
The smell of the muddy, metallic river water that had been suffocating them starts to fade.
And it's replaced by something far more clinical.
The forensic reports from the scene detail a highly visceral set of clues. The detectives begin following a literal physical trail up the concrete stairs.
But it isn't a blood trail.
No, it's a trail of heavy surgical silk, discarded scalpels, and spilled formaldehyde. It is a deliberate breadcrumb trail made of medical supplies, leading them directly toward the ninth floor observation deck.
And as the smell of formaldehyde grows stronger, the auditory environment shifts as well. Above them, situated somewhere near the mechanical penthouse on the roof, Marcus Thorne's sharp ears pick up a distinct sound.
Cutting through the howling of the wind and the relentless rain battering the brick exterior.
He hears a heavy, rhythmic humming,
The auxiliary generator.
which connects right back to Document U.
Exactly. Connect that right back to the horrific, buoyant prototype they pulled from the river with the rubber tubing.
If that torso was just the butcher's practice run to test water resistance.
What kind of biological construction requires a massive industrial generator?
It's terrifying to think about.
The masterpiece waiting for them on the ninth floor isn't just a surgical victim lying passively on a table. It is something so complex, so heavily modified and grafted, that it requires an industrial engine just to draw breath.
Imagine the profound dread settling over Sully and Marcus in that stairwell. They are physically exhausted, operating completely outside of standard police doctrine, and they are climbing toward a rhythmic, mechanical heartbeat.
They have absolutely no idea what they are about to walk into, but the sheer scale of the generator tells them it defies all natural laws of medicine.
Which brings the tension to an absolute boiling point at the very top of the livestock exchange. This is the culmination of everything the butcher has been working toward. Let's set the scene based on how the documents describe it.
It's incredibly cinematic.
The team finally reaches the heavy brass double doors of the ninth floor observation deck. Now, normally, this floor is a wide-open, luxurious space with massive floor-to-ceiling windows. It was designed for wealthy cattle barons to look out over the sprawling pens of the West Bottoms.
But tonight, those massive windows are looking out over an ocean of flooded, apocalyptic devastation.
The storm is violently howling, threatening to shatter the heavy glass. The room is pitch black, illuminated only by the detectives' flashlights hitting a pool of formaldehyde in the center of the room.
And then
A massive flash of lightning strikes. It illuminates the vast space for just a split second. And in that jagged, blinding white light, the butcher's ultimate masterpiece is finally revealed.
It is the perfect cinematic cliffhanger to cap off this mid-season arc.
It really leaves you breathless.
But before we conclude our analysis of these documents, there is one final, incredibly provocative thread we need to pull on, and it ties directly back to Detective Marcus Thorne's specialty behavioral probability.
Wait, if the butcher is as calculating as his surgical logs suggest, are we entirely sure he was just reacting to the flood?
That is exactly the question you have to ask yourself. Think about the sequence of events we just unpacked. The butcher is an engineering genius. We know from the prototype in the river that he explicitly designed biological modifications specifically to survive a flood.
He was prepared.
He was entirely prepared. Furthermore, he deliberately left a highly visible trail of surgical silk and formaldehyde leading to a single, easily defensible stairwell.
And he left a handwritten note explicitly stating he would wait for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, is it possible Marcus Thorne didn't track him at all?
Was this entire ascent up the livestock exchange actually a successful police pursuit? Or was the historic 1964 flood just another calculated variable in the butcher's algorithm?
Did Marcus Thorne successfully calculate the killer's movements? Or was this entire terrifying scenario a hyper-complex statistical trap designed specifically to lure Marcus exactly where the butcher wanted him?
Was the behavioral probabilist ultimately outcalculated by the biological architect?
That's the million-dollar question.
That is a deeply haunting thought to leave on. The idea that the detectives fought through a natural disaster only to walk willingly into a carefully designed cage.
Well, thank you so much for joining us as we explore the dark, submerged, and brilliantly terrifying world of 1964 Kansas City. We hope this deep dive gave you a completely new perspective on these documents and the incredible psychology behind them.
It's a case that really stays with you.
It really does. Until next time, keep looking closely at the details and always keep questioning the odds.